Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending today's Healthcare IT News webinar, Why Healthcare Analytics Starts in the Cloud, sponsored by Snowflake. My name is Mike Milliard. I'm editor of Healthcare IT News, and I will be your moderator today. Healthcare analytics has lagged behind other industries for decades. Managing healthcare analytics goes beyond identifying why healthcare data is unwieldy and difficult, and now solutions that let patients manage their own future have come to be expected, and it starts with cloud data analytics. Our speakers for today are Keith Hoyle, Senior Solution Architect at Snowflake Computing, Mary Pearson, Sales Engineer at Looker, and Todd Crossland, CIO at PDX. And so without further ado, I'll hand it over to Keith to begin the presentation.
Thank you very much, Mike. As he had said, my name is Keith Hoyle. I work for Snowflake, and we believe that Snowflake is a very strong offering in the healthcare space. Some of the key differentiators with our technology that convinces me of that is we're essentially a zero management data warehouse, very low, near zero cost of ownership as far as maintenance. One of our other items is we natively handle many of the semi-structured formats that are common in healthcare. You only pay for the services and the compute that you use. This is allowed through our unique multi-cluster shared data architects. As this slide here can demonstrate, we really are near zero management as far as not only on-prem solutions, but our competition in the cloud. I think we compare very favorably. As far as myself, before coming to Snowflake, I'd come from large healthcare institution where, as you can see this list, we had many sources coming into our enterprise data warehouse and many sources going out. EMRs, clinical trials, practice management, claims, external sources for our own CRMs, even public domain sources, and we serve many clients. So each of these elements kind of lines up with a fairly full-featured landscape that we had to deal with there. One of the items that I would like to speak to is determining accurate costs for patient treatments. As you can see, we have multiple sources of data coming in, all of which have their own formats, HL7, 835s, the usual cast of characters. Each of these come in their own formats and have their own means of identifying patients, medicines, doctors, practices. Trying to pull out all that stuff together is quite a task or quite an obstacle for managing the costs. On the buy side of the cost for medicines, there are bulk purchasing agents and facilities that most practices have, and these tend to create floating unit prices that will vary from purchase to purchase. Makes it very difficult to get down to a single treatment price, as these can change from order to order. Also on the sell side, if you're looking for net profits or net revenue, payers use very different fee schedules depending on their covered members and different policies. These also affect the inbound and outbound, or the cost of goods sold. I apologize. Trying to improve the speed and quality of patient care is also a very large concern, as the amount of data being processed and seen is ever growing. I would say that having all the data, simply having all the data in a single repository is going to be a great benefit to most practices. In my past experiences, the data was hidden in all four corners of the business. Very similar or identical sets of data were being stored and maintained all throughout the company. Having one single repository that is on the cloud provides several advantages. One, it's very elastic. There's no size estimates for the internal IT departments and projecting how much space will be needed in the future. This is just as you need it, you simply store it, and in your on your next month's bill for the service, that extra storage is reflected. It's very elastic, not only from the storage side, but from the compute side. Your jobs that you do are very dynamic in nature. Some very big, some very small. You can also very dynamically acquire the data, the compute power that you need for any particular job at hand. Also, being online, Snowflake has a Spark connector that provides easy access to any of the standard big data and machine learning solutions out there. I see one question that popped up. What OLTP stands for? OLTP is online transaction processing. That is one thing that we, being a data warehouse, we do not do. We are not connected directly with a front end and doing transactions. We are entirely a warehouse in the back. Another challenge that the healthcare industry has is keeping pace with ever-changing regulations. The lack of integrated data means that each silo throughout the company is going to have to adapt to these changes independently, and also the fact that there is a complete or near complete lack of the ability in the market to share data within the internal departments. It's likely that each department's set of reports and data in the back is either the same or slightly different. Each of these different versions of the truth that is stored independently has to be accounted for within the enterprise. It should be said that Snowflake is HIPAA compliant. Our enterprise for sensitive data offering is the latest HIPAA certification. We sign business associate agreements to that effect. So any safety concerns that you may have are easily dealt with in that part of our product. We also, one of our advantages is we handle semi-structured data. We have a proprietary variant data type that allows to natively store and query JSON, XML, Avro, Parquet, ORC messages that are common through the Internet of Things and all the medical devices that your systems may be exposed to. Also, with our elastic computing capabilities, if this data comes in at a trickle, we can adapt to the smaller data loads, as well as when there are times for the machine learning processes, larger processes, bulk processing, we can adapt and acquire the compute that's needed as it is needed. How can we accomplish all of this? As I've said before, with our brand new architecture, we have a single source of shared data upon which we can pull out, upon which you can associate all of your different compute clusters for any functions that you have within your healthcare IT groups. So we have data science, SQL queries, transformations, all the standard reports going. These can be turned on and off as needed, so you're only paying for what it is that you use as you use it. Live sharing is another offering that I feel is very strategic, and is going to be seen a lot more of and heard more in the future within the healthcare industry. The reason this is so is once you have your set of either standard data or your set of patient data, you can securely share with any clients that you choose. Some of the data that can be shared, for example, common data would be NPI registries, NDC codes, treatment codes, HIPAA codes, ICD codes, claim denial forms, all of the standard sets of data that is being used and reported upon throughout not only your company, but any of the other business partners that you may have. You may have external legal groups that respond to regulatory audits. You may have clinical trials from manufacturers. You may have standard reports that you sell back to manufacturers as far as drug efficacy and so forth as a revenue stream. This data sharing allows this safely and easily. You can also, in addition to healthcare related, directly healthcare related information, you can also share standard information like language codes, country codes, ethnicities, and races, so that all of your clinic is speaking the same language and using the same terminology, and is able to report also on those same pieces, again with our data sharing capability. Let's see. I think that's about it for me. Mary, would you? I believe you're up next.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. So I'm Mary. I'm a data analyst at Looker. And yep, perfect. A little background on myself. Before joining Looker, I was a consultant managing implementation of BI solutions at hospital systems So my experience has primarily been in the healthcare space. And today I want to give you all a sense of how Looker approaches data analytics. I think it's different from the way other tools work, and hopefully we'll give some context for Todd's presentation. So first, let's discuss recent changes in the healthcare industry and the emerging needs for data analytics tools. So one major shift we've seen has been the movement from a fee-for-service payment model to pay for performance or pay for quality. So in order to report on and ultimately prove quality, you need tools to help you track and trend patient data. Also, providers are now using other forms of technology, such as applications or wearables, to capture data and track patient outcomes. So what does this mean for the industry? With the movement to electronic health records, as well as the use of these apps, providers are capturing massive amounts of data on their patients. And also, with the changing incentive models, there's a need for analytics tools to track and trend this data. So this is requiring collaboration between, it may be companies such as providers and payers to share and exchange information, or even collaboration between analysts, maybe in a hospital system who have access to data in the back end, and the clinicians who are establishing protocols and treating patients. And all of this is to help improve patient experience and outcomes. So now that there's more focus on data-driven decisions within the healthcare space, we've seen two common reporting problems emerge. And one issue that we've seen across industries is that the data bottleneck. So there may be a person or a team that has access to data and will build out reports or dashboards. And the problem is a queue forms with requests, and it may take weeks or even months to get data and leave users understandably very frustrated. And then this may cause individuals to go back to an old workbook or an incomplete data set, and they might extrapolate from that to get the answers that they're needing. Well, this leads to the next issue, which is a data chaos issue. And here we have individuals across the company that might be working to solve the same problem or answer the same question, but in different workbooks. So this causes a data fracture, and there's no single source of truth. So let's say we have a team that might meet for a strategy session, and we have 3 different answers for if inpatient volumes were up or down the past quarter. And this is a huge problem because either no one trusts the data, or it might lead to teams making ill-informed decisions, which in the case of healthcare can cause adverse events or even impact a patient's health. So I'm going to hop into some examples of the bottleneck and chaos issues that we've seen in the healthcare space specifically, and later on I'll discuss how Looker helped resolve these issues. So for the bottleneck, we had an example where there was a provider and they were looking to track quality metrics. And the clinicians, as well as the quality payment program managers, needed help tracking those outcome measures across populations. For this case, it was asthma and diabetes. They put in a request with a central analyst team for reports. However, the analysts already had a backlog of requests from other groups, and ultimately it took 2 to 3 months for the reports to be delivered. Also, because the analysts are not trained clinicians, they were including or excluding certain key inputs in their queries, such as the wrong diagnosis code that they didn't know to include or exclude. So the clinicians were wanting to be closer to the data. An example that we had seen for chaos is we had a payer organization that had been trying to serve data to key stakeholders. However, they were doing this through the creation of hundreds of data marts. Those were feeding thousands of workbooks. It could even be Excel workbooks. And this caused the data fracture as some groups were defining metrics differently, and they were also some redundancy in terms of for example, gross margin was being defined multiple times across many data marts. So what we've seen is there's been this gap, and some older analytics tools, they provide governance and standards. However, it's not easy to iterate or ask questions of data on the fly, especially if you're not technical. And then with newer workbook style tools, they may provide that self-service, but there's no governance. And so everyone might be working on a different version with a slightly different definition. So with Looker, we're wanting to bridge that gap and provide you both the ease of use and self-service, but also include a layer of governance that everyone can trust the data coming from the tool. So when we see gross margin, we're comfortable that if I'm in operations or I'm in finance, we're going to be getting the same numbers. And we're not wondering why everyone has, inpatient volumes are different across the organization. Also, we want to let anyone view and explore data, whether you're technical and you can write SQL queries against a database or not. We want you to be able to access and ask questions of data on the fly. But not only that, we want people to be able to act on that data. So maybe a claim looks off. I want to be able to send an email directly to the claims manager and ask, about that specific claim ID. I can do that directly from the Looker interface. So you may be asking, how is this done? And it's because of our architecture. Looker is 100% in database, so we're keeping your data where it needs to be and not extracting it out into a tool. We're generating queries using a point-and-click interface within Looker, but then those are executed in your data warehouse. Also, it means your content, your dashboards will include the most recent data. So if you're looking at volumes, patient, financial information, it can be as up-to-date as the data that you're receiving in your warehouse. Also, we know who has access to PHI is an important concern, and Looker has robust security and permissioning structures to help you manage that access. Next, we have a semantic layer. So this is where you can bake in your business logic, for example, that gross margin metric, and this creates consistency across the organization or even across offices and geographies. And finally, we're a modern BI platform. Looker's web-based is a web-based application, so it can be deployed either on-premise or deployed securely in the cloud. And in some cases, we actually have some healthcare organizations doing a hybrid model of both cloud and on-prem deployments. So if we look back to our previous use cases and how Looker helps solve those data bottleneck and chaos problems, with the bottleneck issue at the provider, the central analyst team created a self-service interface within Looker that the non-technical users could ask questions of their data on the fly. So in this example, our lead physician could update a report for a new time period or include or exclude certain diagnoses without having to go back to the analyst team. He could do this on his own. And then this allowed that clinical team to more quickly influence outcomes and introduce new protocols to manage those patient populations. With respect to the chaos, the data chaos that we had seen at the payer, Looker allowed the analyst team to set standard definitions for KPIs in one location in our semantic layer, and then team members across the organization could access. Also, it created a central analytics hub so that everyone in the organization is going to one location, so they're going to a website to find answers to their questions. There isn't multiple workbooks that they're needing to access. They can just sign into Looker and have any number of dashboards or answer any number of questions from that interface. So here, I just wanted to help show some of the use cases that we've been seeing in the healthcare space and what we've been, help solving. So one that I mentioned before was relating more to measuring quality data. But we've seen a lot where we'll have strategy teams that want to do a market share analysis of how am I doing, in a certain marketplace. Looker also has things that we call data blocks. So you can supplement existing data with, let's say, census data. I want to know in my region, certain demographic information of that population. Another thing we've done is patient experience and survey data. So looking at, how are people interacting at a provider? What is their experience like? But then even for, let's say, supply chain and cost management, finance teams need to track, who are some of my providers of certain supplies, what rates am I getting? And so we've been building out dashboards and things for that as well. So I just want to leave you with a list of some of our current healthcare customers, and we have a wide range. So PDX, Todd you'll be hearing from in a moment, to payers like Cigna, to healthcare providers like Greenville Health System, Health Tech. So we're really getting into the healthcare space and wanting to basically help solve some of the data issues that you're seeing there. And with that, I would like to pass it back to Mike.
I think you might be passing it on me. Go ahead. This is Todd. I can go ahead and take it over, Mike. All
is
right.
this me or is this Todd Crosland? Okay, yeah.
This is Todd. Yep, I've got it.
Okay.
Great. So, good morning, afternoon, everybody. This is Todd Crosland. I'm the CIO of PDX, and so I'm going to kind of create an execution or a kind of walk through a story of what happens in working with folks like Snowflake and Looker and our experience. What starts as kind of a customer story, you'll see ends with we are customers and partners and now solution partners of both Looker and Snowflake, and I'll kind of walk you through our journey and where we started with both of them and where we are today, and kind of how that's led us to offering up and being a solution partner for both Snowflake and Looker. So just a little bit about PDX. So PDX has been in the healthcare industry. We are rooted in pharmacy. So for 35 years, we have been working with clients in the pharmacy realm. This right here kind of just gives you a snapshot using Looker, of course, to give you a visualization of our presence across the United States. If I can make it bigger, we also are in Alaska and Guam, but you can see that we have our software is being utilized in all 50 states for core pharmacy dispensing, clinical applications, and I'll get into a little bit more of the data that we have and the reason for partnering with Snowflake and Looker and providing an analytics solution, which we call Explore DX for our clients. And as both mentioned, healthcare is moving from a fee-for-service to a outcomes-based mechanism, and so for us, creating and maintaining and presenting on behalf of our clients a longitudinal data set is something that's massively important. For our clients, some of these folks, a lot of people know, Kaiser Permanente, we have their outpatient pharmacy systems. Other people know Fresenius Medical Care, people like Ahold Delhaize, folks in the specialty pharmacy realm for Avella, GenRx, and some other supermarket chains. Obviously, Albertsons, Giant Eagle are some of those. So we serve a broad market and really partner with these folks. And for us, what we needed and the challenge for us is that we have a large amount. If you look at this, this is kind of the world to PDX and the applications and the services that we provide. You'll see down at the bottom we have on-premise applications. In the middle we have private cloud. We have two of our own data centers. We have public cloud, and so for us, we have a large variety of data that can be in data sources like Oracle, Sybase, even as old as DISAM databases. So for us, we've been on a journey for many years in trying to determine how best to aggregate all of this data, and to the question earlier about OLTP, how to get it out of those OLTP databases and make it available from an analytical perspective. And so our journey with that, while it goes back 35 years, I'll speak specifically about the last 3 or 4 years, but basically, without getting don't talk about other vendors or what have you, but basically we were asked to create an operational data store and a mechanism to take all of that data that you saw from the prior slide, that's financial data, clinical data, operational data, audit data, log file data, and get that into an analytical format so we could then serve that back up to our clients. And so I'm sure you guys have never heard of these types of adjectives before. What we had built, it was on-premise. it was too slow, it wouldn't scale, it required a lot of maintenance, and as you can imagine, it was probably rather expensive. And so we had built this operational data store on behest of one of our larger clients, and the problem was, while we built it for them, it would not scale above what we could do for that one client. So that doesn't work well when you serve close to 10,000 pharmacies in the United States. If you can only serve about 1,500 or so, then it's very difficult, obviously, to bring that capability to our other clients. Also, it was just an operational data store. So in non-technical speak, that just basically means it's a place to have the data which then can be ingested into a data warehouse. So for us, again, we weren't really providing a analytics as a service solution, but that's kind of where we wanted to go. And so I'll jump over, and I think the next question we got, I would love for everyone here to participate if you could. If y'all don't mind, we'll take I think, Eric, like a minute or so to allow people to kind of answer this question. But for those of you that have been a part of analytics and data warehouse, would y'all be willing to go ahead and answer this question to the best of your ability? And I'd love to kind of see what y'all's feedback is on it. So Eric, I think we're taking a minute to do that.
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Do we get Jeopardy music?
I could hum it, but it wouldn't be pleasant.
All right.
Final results are up.
They are. So number one looks like getting results back to point of care. And the second one is determining what analysis is going to generate an ROI. As luck would have it, I can probably speak to any of these. We've had challenges and successes in all these areas, but I'm going to take those into account as I kind of continue through the presentation. But I definitely we can relate to that, and I can provide some evidence as to how we've attacked both of those areas. So I'll kind of continue on here. So as we kind of left off, I told you my friend Bono was going to help me out here. So we had not found what we were looking for. So we really wanted to take a hard look and reset basically our approach with our clients. And so we have that, again, a large number of clients. We needed a solution that could be multi-tenant, be able to serve that up and keep it as simple as possible. So, here Bono was in the 80s. He had his dark hair with his blonde tips and a little bit of a mullet going on back there. So he hadn't quite found what he was looking for yet. So, but for us, what we needed to do then, and the way we approach this is through a competitive proof of concept. So we reached out and became aware of Snowflake. This was in the late fall of 2015. Snowflake was a young company then, still a young company now. Looker was a little bit more established in the marketplace, and through a series of chance and luck and a variety of other items, we came across both of these guys, and so we put them in a head-to-head competition with others in their arena. So Hadoop is a significant player. It's a very, very valuable mechanism of doing big data analytics. and so we put Snowflake up against a Hadoop implementation in one of the public cloud spaces, and so that was their competition. We placed Looker up against a couple other data visualization platforms. Again, I won't get into who they were, but it was two other data visualization platforms. And so we spent about 6 weeks working. We had 2 teams basically working with these guys. And at the end of those 6 weeks, Snowflake and Looker were the clear winners. Basically, it was kind of interesting. Even on the data visualization side, the folks there are great data visualizations platforms out there, but for us, Looker was the right partner, and I'll get in a little bit more into why that is. But even everyone on the other team voted for Looker to be that winner. Snowflake was the walkaway winner from a capability perspective, and I'll get into that here in a minute. But just the flexibility and all the different things that we can do with Snowflake. Hadoop is not a one-trick pony, but there's a lot that goes into the care and feeding and build out of a Hadoop cluster. And as Keith mentioned, the low overhead and the low maintenance requirements for Snowflake were a massive bonus for us. So from a perspective, and this is basically what we call the beautiful day. Back when we started working with Snowflake, we were ingesting tens of millions up to hundreds of millions of records of data on any given day. And when we were loading it, typically we were loading once a day, and we moved from loading once a day to once an hour. Real-time or near real-time analytics is something that can be very important, and was something that we wanted to strive to, but you can't just snap your fingers and make it happen overnight. So in the beginning, again, we loaded daily. We were using Golden Gate for change data capture, but still out of Oracle and Sybase, but we were still running things on a daily basis. If you enter into then 2016, 2017, we went to loading hundreds of millions of records to single billions of records in any given day. We also made another leap there, whereby we went from loading some records every day, other records every hour, and now data every 15 minutes. The key to all this, and going back from a Snowflake perspective, is that this is cloud native. We had no need to go out and try to attempt to figure out what was our capacity. Because they separate compute and storage, we were basically able to pour this amount of data into Snowflake and at no time have to determine over the next X number of months or years what were our storage needs. From a virtual warehouse perspective and a virtual compute perspective, again, we didn't have to go out and identify how many cores, how much memory, what was the need for what we had, because basically Snowflake just grew with us. It was all configuration based or dial based, right, where you simply dial up the amount of storage, you just pour it in, you dial up the amount of compute that you need, and you also, we have auto scaling capability, so we can dial it up when we need to, and it auto scales back down. That is a massive amount of just a huge, from a speed perspective, speed to market perspective. We signed contracts with both partners in March of 2015, and we had our product, Explore DX, was live with our first customer in June of that year. So the speed to market and the ability to ingest data quickly, get it modeled, get the data model going inside of Looker with their LookML product, and then visualizing that data and bringing that ROI, which I'll get to more in here shortly, bringing that ROI to that first client was done in a very, very short amount of time. From an IT perspective, being a CIO, having on-premise data center, you can imagine, I've lived the pain that is trying to predict what your hardware needs are. So this slide and where it ends is the fact that here, a couple of weeks ago, actually we were loading hundreds of millions up to 1 billion to 2 billion records on any given day. And those, if you look at the slide, if you can see the minutes, I'll go ahead and tell you the time it took, the total time, even throughout the day, was anywhere from 118 to 100 or 200 or so minutes. So that's, from a speed perspective, the ingestion rate. And by the way, this is not just ads for any techie folks out there. This is merge, or what you'd call updates as well. But we also, if you notice, there's a big rise on February 12th of this year. We had a need and we had a capability, and we had a need to ingest a lot of data that we had held back for a period of time. And so for us, we loaded 52 billion records in 257 minutes. So from a scalability perspective and from a speed perspective, there's nothing that we've found or heard of out there in the marketplace that allows us to scale up on demand, load the data we need to load. And what needs to be understood here is that while that data was loading, some of it in a daily batch early in the morning, some of it was done every hour, but a big chunk of that was done every 15 minutes. And again, within those 15 minutes, it would take like 1 to 2 minutes. That's why we aggregate it together for a total of 257 minutes. But for us, while we were doing all of this, none of our customers, none of our clients were being impacted at all. They had all of their own virtual warehouses, which were allowing them to query all of that data without being impacted by what's called the ingestion of new data and update data. So that is a massive advantage for us in being able to bring this to market. So likewise, excuse me, did a lot of speaking last week at HIM, so my voice is a little bit hoarse. So from a Looker perspective, and what we speak about a lot with Looker is our ability to embed. And so we are able to embed Looker inside of our applications. This one's called TurnRx. It's an inventory management application that we've built out. Everything today, I can't imagine building another application for our clients that isn't, quote, data-driven. Having the ability to embed dashboards, and back to the question about getting your data back to point of care. It is massively important for our clients to get that data back into the end user. For us, it may be pharmacists, nurse practitioners, pharmacy technicians, those people that need that data. Looker and the embedded capability in our applications allows us to get that data right back into the hands of the people that need it. Again, whether that's financial data, operational data. We have a lot of pharmacies that run a lot of workflow that we need our clients to be on top of their day-to-day operational metrics, and having that data back to the point of care or back to the operator is massively important, and Looker gives us the ability to do that. Not only that, but Looker has a capability of what's called data action. So it's literally an ability to take an analytic, a result of what's called a look inside Looker, take those results and push that data back into an OLTP database, back into Oracle in our case, and have that data, not just visualizations, but literally get that data back into our point of care systems and back into that relational database, so that the next time an operator pulls up a record or works with a patient, that data is there, and it's the results of an analysis that we ran. Barry talked about governance. It's a huge thing for us. To get a little techie for 2 seconds, it's built on top of Git. Git is a version control capability that allows us to have a base for all of our clients, and then our clients have a base to work off of for all their analytics, and then they can go off and branch that and branch those dashboards, and so that governance is a massive bonus for us. And last thing Mary mentioned, the self-service. I am a data geek, but I'm not massively technical, but I am able to go in and create my own ad hoc reports and use the capabilities of Looker, and it doesn't require you to be a developer or what have you. So just overall for us, a huge partnership for us, and that's kind of where we've headed, is that for us, we've kind of done the core, right? We're at the end of we like to say we're at the end of the beginning, but the beginning of data-driven organizations for not only our clients but ourselves, and what we think we can bring to other folks out there. Is we've created financial clarity. We've identified operational outliers. We can produce and show clinical outcomes. And like I just mentioned earlier, providing data actions with a feedback loop, because that's what this is all about. It's all about longitudinally looking at a patient and personalizing and being precise in what we do with those patients. And so for us, what you don't see in the stack, and I talked a little bit about it, we've done some of our own predictive analytics just using tools like SQL, but the next thing that we're doing is applying a predictive analytics platform on top of all this, and really allows us to do our statistical models to really help our clients. And as we bring this out, and kind of what's happened, you can kind of tell from this journey, is we were working with Snowflake, working with Looker, working with our current customers, and what came out of it was that we really think we can help folks in the broader healthcare space really help them from an analytics perspective if they've struggled with some of the questions, and you guys brought them up, right? I think I addressed how to get the results back to point of care, but also from an ROI perspective, it's domain knowledge. We're very comfortable and given our healthcare knowledge and the fact that we have an ambulatory EMR that pharmacists use to do immunizations, to do disease management, to do strep test. And so we've got that expertise to ideally help folks out in a broader sense than what we've just done with our clients. So for us, have you found what you've been looking for? Do you feel as though you still got blonde tips on dark hair with a mullet? Basically, have you invested a lot in a data warehouse platform? Do you have a data warehouse platform? Are you a green field in what we call it? Do you know where to begin? And so that's kind of where, between the three of us, we think we bring a great set of expertise, great human talent, and great tools that can help anybody in healthcare bring value and get that value back to the point of care, back to that patient, and provide an overall better outcome. So with that, I think I might have gone a few minutes over. So.
All right. Yeah, we got about 10 minutes left for Q&A, and we already got one question. We please do encourage you to add some of your own. Just feel free to type them into the questions box and click submit. But first up, and I think this may be for Keith, but we could probably, I'll let you, Todd, or Mary, chime in with your perspectives as well, if you think it's appropriate. How hard is it to get started with Snowflake?
From our standpoint, the barrier of entry is very low. Upon signing a proof of concept agreement, we will just give the customer a Snowflake account and even give them 400 credits, which is enough to get them started doing a proof of concept, kind of kick the tires and see if it's the right solution for your problem. So from our standpoint, it's about as low as you're going to get. Free, and we give you some usage to play around.
Yeah, and I can kind of add to that. Yeah, I kind of mentioned it, right? We did the POC from December into January, February of 15 into 2016. And we were able to bring in we ingested data in a matter of days, and then built out the data model. Keith will probably freak out when I say this, while it's a zero maintenance database, you still need to follow your best practices for your data. We have a big joke that we had a query that was an 800-line SQL query. That's inefficient. So you shouldn't, while it works, and by golly, it worked. I don't think you want to stay with an 800-line query. You want to get your data so that it's better, it's more, we'll call it flat for lack of a better phrase, so whereby you're not doing a bunch of links and joins and what have you. So now in all of that, Snowflake didn't have to do a thing. That was just us, and it really taught us, and it has taught us to be and use best practices when creating our data model. But from a ease of use and speed, it's very, very quick.
That's a good point, Todd. In fact, having that low maintenance on that side allows you guys to focus and say, yes, we know the systems are working well. We don't need to go play with indexes and partition. That stuff is already handled. Let's get to look at it. And that, like you say, you're chunking it into pieces that are more relevant from a healthcare standpoint, less nuts and bolts and more about problem solving, more strategic. Good point.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank everyone. I want to thank you, Keith and Mary and Todd, for a terrific presentation, and thanks, of course, to the audience for joining us today. We will wrap up now, but thanks again to everyone, and please be sure to complete the evaluation that will be popping up on your screen at the conclusion of the event, just to share your thoughts and feedback with us. And just a reminder that today's session will be available on demand until March 14th, 2019 through the HIMSS Learning Center. Thanks again to everyone, and have a great day.